Today we are going to build this industrial pipe desk with a solid Ambrosia Maple top. Uncomb's design. Historically, I've not been a huge fan of DIY pipe furniture. Often, these pieces are poorly built and are called rustic due to a lack of craftsmanship instead of their actual style. A friend reached out to me and asked if I could build him an industrial pipe desk. At first, I was hesitant because of my existing opinions on the style. However, he showed me some classy and well-implemented examples, and it changed my mind. We settled on Ambrosia Maple for the top, and I got to work. I spent some time thinking through my board layout so I can ensure a consistent grain pattern and hide all the seams. Because of the distinct figuring in the wood, transitions between boards can often look very unnatural if this planning stage is skipped. The only Ambrosia Maple local to me was 15/16 pre-milled lumber. I simply needed to joint an edge and get it cut down to the appropriate width. I once again used Sean Boyd's method for panel glue-ups to get very tight seams. Once the relatively easy milling was done, I laid out my lines for my biscuits. If you're not familiar with biscuits, they are essentially a floating tenon joint. Because of the large amount of surface that needed glue, I used Titebond 3. Because it has one of the longest open times of their entire product line. This extra time leads to a stress-free glue-up and more time to get the biscuits seated and properly in clamps. My boards are still long at this point, and this allows me to cut a seamless edge later when the glue is dry. While the glue-up dried, I moved on to my pipe base. I first removed all the stickers and used acetone to remove the black paint that's on all of the pipes. To avoid removing this paint, I could have used galvanized pipe instead, which is a silver color. However, if the paint ever gets chipped, I want the metal underneath to be a dark color to match the paint instead of a bright silver. This part of the assembly is where I see many DIY projects get it wrong. Just because you screw a pipe in tight does not mean it'll be the same length as the other matching pieces. I spent a considerable amount of time making fine adjustments to how the pieces were threaded to ensure matching legs. To accommodate the hidden power that will be integrated into the desk, I drilled a hole at the bottom of one of my pipes. Later, I'll thread my wire through this hole and I'll use a rubber grommet around this opening to protect the wire. With the hole drilled, I locked everything in place and headed outside to begin painting. I applied 3 coats of primer, 4 coats of a black enamel, and 3 top coats of clear enamel. The next day, I could clean up my desktop using hand tools and my random orbital sander. If you like my videos, hit subscribe. That is the best way you can help me continue to make free content on YouTube. Also, leave a comment down below for any projects you want to see in the future. I read all of your comments and do my best to respond. The grain pattern on Ambrosia Maple is caused by a fungus left behind by beetles. I went through all of these bug holes and imperfections and filled it with a 2-part epoxy. I cleaned up the excess epoxy with a chisel and sandpaper and cut my desk in square with a circular saw. I used a sanding block to create a small chamfer around the edge. I could certainly do this with a router, but I prefer the hand chamfered look. I then used my router to create a recess that will allow the cable to exit the pipe leg and connect to my power box. With the bottom pretty much finished, I applied several coats of a triple thick polyurethane. This product is extremely thick and you have to work it on more with a brush as opposed to a more traditional varnish. I set my pipe base on the bottom of the table and threaded my cable through and added a grommet. The distributor of this electrical box sent me the wrong model. So instead of waiting 5 weeks for the correct one, I chose to make some electrical modifications myself. After making those modifications, I closed up the box and checked everything with a multimeter. Once I knew everything worked properly, I hot glued my cable in place and attached the box to the underside of the desk. I attached the legs with screws and flipped it to apply the same triple thick polyurethane to the top. The footage for this build is actually a combination of footage from the making of 2 of these desks a few months apart. I first made one for my friend Brandon, and I loved it so much that I made one for myself. I prefer a taller work surface, so I made my particular desk 6 inches taller than the original one. I replaced my old desk chair with a drafting height chair from Laura Davidson to go with the desk. The hidden power is extremely convenient. I cut a small slit in my rug to discreetly run the power cable under the rug and to the wall outlet. I hate seeing cables, and this desk hides all of the wires. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Combs Design. I have a few other projects that have been in the works for several months, and they will be released soon. Stay tuned for those, and stay safe until next time.